Hey everybody, it's Galmadex, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'll be playing another premiere draft of the core sets format. Again, the mixture of the three most recent core sets, M19, M20, and M21. So without further ado, let's take a look at this pack, see what stands out as the most powerful pick one pack ones. So we do have a good rare here, Mentor of the Meek, 3 mana for a 2/2. Whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you get to pay 1 mana to draw a card. So a pretty great card draw engine in a white weenie deck, just an aggressive white strategy with a lot of small power creatures, so that seems like a pretty good pick. Sift is an excellent draw spell. Draw 3 cards, discard 1 for 4 mana. The discard 1 not a massive drawback. When you're drawing 3, you're likely to hit something you don't need, either non-lands when you're digging for lands or lands when you're flooding out. Luminous Bonds here is a pretty great removal spell, nice and flexible. 3 mana to just make something unable to attack or block. And then other than that, we just have some like decent commons like Aven Windmage and stuff. I think I'm kind of happy to just take the pretty sweet looking rare here, Mentor of the Meek, although again, Sift and Luminous Bonds both look like pretty powerful cards as well, but Mentor of the Meek can lead to a lot of card draw throughout the game if it does not get killed quickly, so Mentor of the Meek, pretty fun card to try out here potentially. Alright, an excellent pack here. Wow, I really like these uncommons, both of them just big green threats. Mare, a 4 mana 5/3, already a little bit above the curve, can't be blocked by black creatures, but it also has hexproof, which is a ridiculous ability, makes it so your opponents can't target it with their spells or abilities, but you can still target it with your own stuff, so your opponents can't just throw a removal spell at this. That being said, it's only 3 toughness, so it is likely to die in combat at some point eventually, but the hexproof is so powerful. I really like Mare. Vigilant Baloth, also excellent, 5 mana for a 5/5 Vigilance. This really mucks up the board state, makes you greatly in the lead in terms of the best creature on board, because it's a fantastic attacker and blocker at that size. I think both of these uncommons are sweet. I'm not actually sure which is better. There's also Shock here at common being a standout cheap removal spell, and then other than that, maybe like Drill Master for aggressive white or Boggart Brute for aggressive red, but I think I'm going to take Mare here. We don't get hexproof particularly often anymore, and that's for good reason. Hexproof is just a degenerate ability. It is really, really rude. Your opponent will often end up with a hand just full of removal while your hexproof card slowly kills them, and there's nothing they can do about it. So with that being said, I'm pretty happy to take another Mare here, just another 4 mana 5/3 hexproof. Gigantosaurus is really hard to cast, and even if Gigantosaurus resolves because it doesn't have trample or flying or anything, it is more like an edict effect. It's just going to force them to chump block once a turn until eventually, if it does get in, it is likely to kill them in only 1 or 2 attacks, but just the fact that it doesn't protect itself from any removal, doesn't have any trample or any extra way to get in, and is incredibly difficult to cast, I'm not particularly high on that card. Whereas Mare, with the protection from removal, much easier to cast, I'm pretty happy to just take that. That being said, there's also Gallant Cavalry, which is a sweet combo with Mentor of the Meek, but I just love me a Mare. I drafted this card all the time in these core sets, so I'm going to take it over the Cavalry. But Cavalry is definitely a decent pick there, just for the combo with Mentor of the Meek, if we really want to commit into white there. Because, of course, that Cavalry does make two 2/2s, lets you draw 2 cards that way. Anyways, pick 4 now. Some more excellent green cards. Super happy to be in green so far. We have Ghastbark Twins, 7 mana for a 7/7 trample. Absolutely massive game ender. It can also block 2 creatures. So if you are on the defensive, if you're on the back foot there, this can really change the board state when it comes out, even if you're at a low life total by blocking 2 things, which is pretty nice. But I think I like Druid of the Cowl a little bit better because it's a little bit less replaceable. Ghastbark Twins is just a sweet, like 7-drop massive green creature, but in these core sets, multiple of these core sets have Colossal Dreadmaw as a common, which is a 6 mana 6/6 trample. Sure, that is worse than Ghastbark Twins. It's a little bit smaller, doesn't have the fancy ability, but it's comparable enough, whereas Druid of the Cowl is the kind of effect we're going to get a lot less often, this helping us ramp into our big cards. Plus, with 2 Mare already, 2 great 4-drops to ramp into on turn 3 if we get that acceleration from the Druid of the Cowl. Druid of the Cowl just already looks sweet for the deck, even if we don't end up with a lot of 6 mana stuff. So now, not a ton of super exciting stuff, like Blood Divination's a fine draw spell for sacrifice decks, Dwindle a fine removal spell for blue, because they don't have access to a ton of it. I guess we could just take like Rock's Oracle here and stick to green, because Swift Claw, sure, good for like white weenie aggressive stuff, but it doesn't actually trigger our Mentor of the Meek, so not actually the greatest combo for that half of the deck, and we only have the one white card here, so if we just take a Rocks Oracle just to find 4-2 replaces itself with that card draw, then we can still be kind of open to swapping our second color, not necessarily married to our Mentor of the Meek. Alright, so Magistrate's Scepter is a really fun card, but it is exceptionally slow. You get to put a charge counter on it for 4 mana, and once it has 3 charge counters on it, you get to tap it and take an extra turn after this one. So once every 4 turns, if you're spending 4 mana a turn, just much too slow, too much of a mana commitment really there, but it is a fun card, so it's kind of cool looking. That being said, I think I'm cool to just take Sky Scanner. Very nice card. This fits into any deck perfectly. A 3 mana 1/1 flyer that draws a card when it hits the board. That is just enough impact to make the cut in pretty much any deck. So the fact that this is totally colorless and is a pretty decent rate makes it so it's a relatively high pick for me. I just like that it slots into any deck easily, and it is good with the Mentor of the Meek. It is a 2 power or less creature there. So what do we have now? We have Essence Scatter in blue, kind of a blue removal spell by being a counter spell. Swift Claw or Mighty Leap for an aggressive white deck. Neither of those particularly exciting, but fine filler there. Spark Tongue Dragon might be one of the most exciting cards in this pack. It is a lot of mana to get the maximum value out of it, but a 5 mana 3/3 flyer isn't the worst rate in the universe. And if you do get that kicker effect, spending an additional 3 to do 3 to a target, then you're very happy. Also, green-red ramp could be a pretty fun strategy, and we do have one ramp card already, the Druid of the Cowl. So I think red-green could work out well here. I'll scoop up a Spark Tongue Dragon, I think. Okay. Well, pick 8 here. We're seeing some good blue stuff. We have Omen Speaker, an excellent 2-drop. 2 mana for a 1/3 when it enters the battlefield, scry 2, or Sleep, an excellent game ender. This is a sorcery that taps all of your opponent's creatures and they stay tapped the next turn. So this card works especially well in any deck that's doing a lot of attacking, so not really the most controlling card despite the looks of it. It's actually best in like a green-blue deck where you have a lot of power on the board, but the board state might be cluttered, you're having trouble getting in. This can just close out a game, shut off all of their blockers 2 turns in a row. So yeah, I think I'm just going to roll a Sleep into here. Often I would take Omen Speaker over Sleep, or I guess on occasion I would, but we are like the exact color pair if we do end up in green-blue to make the most power out of that Sleep. Have that just get all of our random green nonsense in. Alright, and here with double Vine Mare, I'm going to make a little bit of a weird pick. In general, Bristling Boar, Centaur Course are both fine cards at their mana costs on the curve, and Blanchwood Armor, not something you want to look at particularly often because it is an aura. You can always get 2 for 1 by playing an aura, but I'm feeling really nostalgic right now with 2 hexproofing creatures. I really like the idea of taking this enchantment that just gives +1/+1 for each forest we control. Now we just try to draft as many green cards as possible, have this be as much impact as possible. Most of the time, we're not going to want to throw this on just like a Druid of the Cowl or something, because it could just be blown up by a removal spell, but if we can throw it onto a Vine Mare, we could have a really fun time there, build our own hexproofing Gigantosaurus, I suppose. So best card in this pack is pretty easily Boggart Brute, 3 mana for a 3/2 menace there, just a nice evasive card for cheap. So we're not committed to anything here. I'll keep all the non-green cards in here for now. This pack is not super good. Swift Claw for aggro, Voice for just a red draw spell. Not really looking for Manalith or Field Creeper here. I'll just grab a Tormenting Voice, I guess. I do like Spark Tongue Dragon and Boggart Brute, and Mentor of the Meek isn't looking super sweet here. So I'll prioritize red slightly higher. And then all of these cards are pretty much unplayable, just all a little slow for whatever they're doing. Just throw a Root Snare into the sideboard. We'll throw a Havoc Devils in here, which could get played if we do go red-green, and a Hostile Minotaur. And a Sure Strike. Not a bad combat trick here. 2 mana for +3/+0 and first strike till end of turn. That often means that the Sure Strike is going to trade into whatever you're throwing this on. Because of the first strike, you're not going to lose the creature in combat there. Alright, so what do we have here? We have Barkhide Troll, which I am very tempted to take here. I think this is going to be our 3rd hexproof card, potentially. 2 mana for a 2/2, enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. You can remove that counter to give it hexproof till end of turn, so it only gets hexproof once. But if we have 3 hexproof cards in here, then we're getting a really good hexproof theme to start taking some auras like the Blanchwood Armor, and really going for that kind of themed deck. This is also just a great rate in general, and we're already looking to be pretty heavy into green with the Blanchwood Armor if I want to do that kind of stuff. So I'm pretty happy to take Barkhide Troll. That being said, there are excellent red cards in here. Ember Hall Hauler and Chandra's Outrage, and we do already have some red. The Ember Hauler can sacrifice for 2 damage to any target, and Outrage can deal 4 to a target and 2 to the owner. So those would be pretty great picks here because we do have a lot of red going on. And I guess otherwise there's like Evolving Wilds or a Murder if we want to do just move into another color here, but I don't think we want to do that. All right, so pick 2. Nothing awesome here. We don't really have much removal right now. We have Sure Strike that we could use in combat to kill whatever's blocking. But obviously if our opponent just plays defensively with whatever bomb they have and don't put it into combat, we can't really kill it with a combat trick, so I kind of like Reduce to Ashes here. Just make sure we have a little bit of removal in this deck, 5 mana for 5 damage to a creature, and exile it from the graveyard. Seems solid to me. Other than that, we have like Ferocious Pup, pretty filler green stuff there. Another combat trick, Infuriate, or Scampering Scorcher, that's 3 1/1s with haste for 4 mana. Not super exciting unless you have some stuff that cares about going wide, and there are some cards that care about going wide, like Mentor the Meek. Like if we were red-white Mentor the Meek here, Scampering Scorcher could be pretty sweet with that ability, but we're definitely not going to be red-white. We're going to be like green-red or green-white, so we'll take the Reduce to Ashes there. Now in pick 3, I think I like the Leafkin Druid, just another ramp card like the Druid of the Cowl. 2 mana for a 0/3 that taps for a green, or double green if we have 4 or more creatures. So another card to help us slam down a Vine Mare early, help us slam down any of our 5 to 8 mana cards like Rock's Oracle and Spark Tongue Dragon quicker as well. And there's not much else in this pack. I do like Cloudkins here a lot in blue, but we only have Sleep in blue. We are so much more likely to end up in red than blue at this point. I don't think that is the pick, and we're 100% likely to end up in green, so we might as well just take the good green card here. Yeah, there's like Moldervine Reclamation, which is fantastic in green-black as well. Great value engine if you can afford to play a card that doesn't immediately impact the board. All right, so how many elementals do we have in here? We have 3 elementals already. Lavakin Brawler would be our 4th elemental. In our last draft deck, in that blue-red deck, we didn't have that many elementals, and this was still a solid card. It is a 2/4 on blocks and a 3/4 minimum when it attacks because it is an elemental. So getting +1/+0 for each elemental you control whenever it attacks. Really don't need any other elementals on the board for it to be fine, and once you have 1 or 2, that's just a really efficient card, so pretty happy to take Lavakin Brawler here. I am taking it over Gift of Paradise, but I don't think we need that much ramp. We don't have that much going on in our high mana costs, and I definitely prefer the creature-based ramp because they fill 2 roles, blocking early game threats and ramping us up. Alright, now we have a Centaur Courser, 3 mana 3/3 here, seems pretty fine on rate. That is the kind of filler card we want in our deck because we do want to get as heavy into green as possible. We also have Destructive Digger in red. Weaker toughness, but this can get us out of Flood, sacrificing our lands to draw a card for 3 mana. I think Digger is a better card than Courser by a little bit, but I really want to go for the Blanchwood Armor thing. Not saying that it's correct to do the Blanchwood Armor thing, but it is a super nostalgic card for me that I've been playing, since Magic begun. Since I begun playing Magic. So I just love slapping Blanchwood Armor on hexproof stuff. So that's why I took it so highly, even though it's not super great in Limited, because you kind of have to be 2 colors. But yeah, I'm going to take the reasonable pick there and go with Destructive Digger over the Centaur Courser there. Hopefully we can get better green stuff. So we do have double Vine Mare. So with Pattern Matcher, a 4 mana 3/3 lets us search for a card with the same name as a creature we control put into our hand. If we cast this when we have a Vine Mare on the board, we'll get another one. And the worst case scenario is it's a 4 mana 3/3 and nothing else in this pack is all that good. So kind of just going to take Pattern Matcher there and really hope for the best, that we get really lucky with a Vine Mare at some point. But it's also possible we get like another Skyscanner or something. I'm not sure what all was reprinted in the rest of the core sets, but I know that there's some creatures that are reprinted in most of the 3, so we could get another duplicate. Anyways, some weak cards here, just some 1 mana creatures that have, a 1 mana impact on the game, which is not that big. So just going to take the green-red dual land here and be happy about it. All right, Chandra's Outrage and Ember Hauler wield, the 2 red cards that I was talking about in this pack. Oh wait, no, these didn't wheel. This is pick 8. This isn't pick 9. That means there was a pack directly next to the pack that I opened that had the exact same 2 removal spells in it. That's insane. I don't know if Emberheart or Chandra's Outrage is better, but they're both great. I think, yeah, I will go with Chandra's Outrage, because we already have 3 great green 2-mana creatures. And, okay, so the Chandra's Outrage didn't wheel out of my opening pack, but the Ember Hauler did, because there was Ember Hauler and Chandra's Outrage. So we'll grab an Ember Hauler now. The problem with Ember Hauler for us is going to be how heavy we're going to be into green, so hitting double red on turn 2 is going to be difficult, but we can treat this as a 4 or 5 mana card, and it's still fine. So, still going to take Ember Hauler there. Alright, this is a pretty easy Scorcher, although not the most exciting thing ever. And we might end up cutting it, there's just not a lot in that pack. It looks like a Stone Golem here, just a 5 mana 4/4 that is also probably getting cut. Let's hold the Alt key here, see how many I own of all these cards. I'm assuming I own pretty much every common in all of these sets, but once we get to this point in the draft where anything that I pick is just going to get cut from the deck, I do sometimes like to try to just build my collection, take whatever I don't currently own. So if you'd like to do a similar thing, just hold the Alt key if you're on PC. I don't know what it is on Mac. And it'll tell you how many you have in your collection. The check mark just means you have a full playset already. So as you can see, I just have everything in this pack. Anyways, pack 3, pick 1 here. We do have a sweet rare, although it's a bit of a build around and not something I've been particularly impressed by when I've cast it before. 3 mana for 5/4 flyer. I mean, it's a huge defender, but it is pretty difficult to get it attacking. At the beginning of your end step, you create a treasure token for each creature that died this turn, and if you get 4 or more artifacts on your board, then it can start attacking. Usually just too annoying for me personally to try to get set up, whereas I really like this this gold uncommon here. I've always been a fan of this thing. This is a 4 mana 4/3 that taps for a green for each creature with power 4 or greater you control, so it ramps into your like 6 mana cards. Once you're at 4 mana, you don't need ramp that badly, so not that insane, but the secondary ability, it also just helps ramp into its own ability, which is 8 mana to have it deal damage equal to its power to a player or planeswalker. So that's 4 damage every time you're attacking, or every time you're activating that, so that can close out a game really quickly. It has been pretty impressive game editor, pretty much a large fan of the Leafkin Avenger, excuse me. So there's 2 playable cards in green or red here, Pitchburn Devils and Gnarled Sage, and Pitchburn Devils is only really playable in the sacrifice decks, where you know you have access to that ability whenever you need it, the ability to have it deal 3 damage to any target when it dies, so I guess it's just going to be Gnarled Sage here, another power 4 or greater creature to help trigger like Mare, and just a kind of filler 5-drop 4/4 reach, gets +0/+2 vigilance if we've drawn a card during that turn, which isn't going to happen super often, but... Alright, Chandra's Incinerator, not actually the craziest or scariest rare ever, but it's basically a Colossal Dreadmaw for our deck, just a 6 mana 6/6 trample, but I'll take it. Every now and then we might get value out of the effect. The effect is it costs X less to cast, where X is the amount of non-combat damage dealt to your opponents this turn. That is very rarely going to happen, but... Also, whenever a source we control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, we'll deal that much damage to a creature or planeswalker they control. So if we cast a Chandra's Outrage, we deal 4 to one of their creatures and 2 to their face, and because we dealt 2 damage to their face, if we have Chandra's Incinerator on board, we'll deal an additional 2 damage to one of their creatures. So that effect not going to come in particularly often, but it is just a Colossal Dreadmaw game-ending card, 6 mana 6/6 trample. Pretty simple stuff there. Alright, so we have Furious Rise we could use as a potential card draw engine for our deck. At the beginning of our end step, if we control a creature with power 4 or greater, we exile the top card of the library and we can cast it until we exile another card at the end of our next turn. So pretty sweet card draw engine there if we have enough power 4 or greater stuff, and we kind of do. We have double Mare, Havoc Devils, Leafkin Avenger starting at 4, everything at 5 has like 4 power. So that could be the pick here. There's also Ranger's Guile if we want some hexproof protection for one of our creatures, but if we want that, we can just take the rare Heroic Intervention. I think I'm going to take Furious Rise here. I think it fits a role that our deck doesn't have a lot of, which is card draw, whereas we do have cards that just come with baked-in hexproof. Mare and Barkhide Troll kind of already protect themselves from stuff, so a little hexproof spell might be a little redundant to our deck. Alright, so this pack, there's literally 1 card in our 2 colors, so just Scorching Dragonfire, not much to be said there. It is a great card, efficient removal spell, so happy to see that. Alright, so we have Skyway Sniper. We could main deck for some flying hate, but if we're not playing against flying, obviously it's pretty mediocre. Or we have like Trouble Snout here, which is 3 mana for a 3/3. Basically just a Centaur Courser. Or 3 mana for a 2/2 gain 4 life if we're really hurting and we need that life gain. So fine little flexible card. I guess I'll take Truffle Snout here. Not a massive fan of Track Down or main decking a Sniper, so I'll grab a Truffle Snout here. Ooh, options. Wow. So Spore Web Weaver, a 3 mana 1/4 reach hexproof from blue. Whenever it's dealt damage, create a 1/1. So a really annoying blocker, but it's not actually that threatening with only the 1 power. Drowsing Tyrannodon, which is also somewhat of an annoying blocker, a 3/3 for only 2. It can attack if we control a creature with power 4 or greater, or the green-red dual land. I don't know if this is right, but I'm honestly just going to take Drowsing Tyrannodon. This card has impressed me in these power 4 or greater green-red decks, where you can play this turn 2 as just a 3/3 defender, stop your opponent's 2/2s or whatever from getting in, and then, on turn 4, when you play your 4-power card, have that just bash in. Maybe we're supposed to just take that spider there, but I haven't personally been a massive fan of it. It's just like a really annoying blocker. So if you're on the defensive, it is excellent, but it doesn't help too much on the aggressive, and I am hoping to be on the aggressive as much as possible with this deck. Alright, now we're just taking a bunch of self-explanatory stuff, pretty much like 1 card in our color in these past several packs. I do like taking an Onaki Ogre because we have Drowsing Tyrannodon now, so it's possible to get it attacking on turn 3 with that card. And again, Ranger Skyle a little bit redundant with multiple cards that just have hexproof. So this is a 35 card deck. One of those cards is a dual land, so 34 cards. So we get to cut 10 cards out of here. Actually 11 cards if we want to play a 17 land deck. We really get to build this deck here. Did not end up as heavy into green as I would like for Blanchwood Armor to be a large impact, so this might be one of those sad days where we end up cutting the Blanchwood Armor. I guess we'll see when we go to deck building. That is most days, to be honest. It is not a great card, but it is so nostalgic to me. Back in like Duels of the Planeswalkers era, the very first Duels of Planeswalkers game had like a mono green deck with Blanchwood Armor in it, and it was just so fun to slam that thing onto a trampler and close out the game so quickly. So I'm going to go ahead, take a moment here, turn off my Parallax card styles. Just not a fan. They do have a button that says to turn off card styles, but it doesn't actually do that in your gameplay options. Oh, what the heck? I guess it just turns itself back on whenever the game updates, because I know on my mobile version I have the auto-apply card styles off. Well, I turned it off on here again, and hopefully it'll stop doing that. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe that button does do something. So if you're like me and you don't like those card styles, I guess you can try going into the gameplay options and turning that off and seeing if it does something for you. Alright, so 51 cards, so 11 cards to cut. 26 creatures, 8 non-creatures. Probably cutting Blanchwood Armor, because we're just not going to be that heavy into green, so the whole Mare Blanchwood Armor dream is just not going to happen. Red was certainly more open than green by the end of that draft, so we ended up with a lot of that. I don't love the Sure Strike little combat tricks. Most of our creatures are going to be big enough to win in combat already, plus we just have straight removal, Reduced to Ashes, Outrage, and Dragonfire taking up our non-creature slots, so we'll put all these in the maybe pile for potential cuts. But I think everything else in our non-creature stuff fills its role pretty well. Furious Rise being the most important, probably. And then the removal just being fantastic. Tormenting Voice, fine. To just get a little more card draw, a little card filtering into the deck. Alright, so Stone Golem, Epitaph Golem, very mediocre creatures in a deck that already has 26, so they're probably getting cuts. Pattern Matcher, we only ended up with Mare being the only card with our 2 copies of it. So Pattern Matcher very often just a 4 mana 3/3 that doesn't do anything. And if we're looking for 3/3s, we have 3 mana 3/3s like Truffle Snout, Destructive Diggers close to that power level 2. So not super pumped about a 4 mana 3/3 that very rarely does anything. Scampering Scorcher doesn't actually do that much in our deck, just 3 1/1s. Not a lot of ways to utilize those. I don't love like the 4 mana cards that don't have 4 power with the little bit of a 4 power theme that we have going with Leafkin Avenger and Drowsing Tyrannodon. So just cards like Hostile Minotaur for sure I'm not that excited about. Daggersail Aeronaut, like maybe because we don't really have any evasion in this deck, not any flying. But it is pretty mediocre. A 4 mana 3/2 that is only flying during your turn. So it's like super bad at blocking. Yeah, we have so many creatures. We got to put something in the pile to be cut. I do like all of our 3 mana stuff. Boggart Brute, Destructive Digger. Ogre's a little bit sketchy. Only 2 toughness for the 3 mana and no abilities on the card. Just high power. But it does work well with Tyrannodon. Does work well with Leafkin Avenger. Yeah, that is the first 3-drop I would cut if I had to cut one. Barkhide Troll, Leafkin Druid, Druid of the Cowl, Drowsing Tyrannodon, and Ember Hauler are all excellent 2-mana creatures, so we'll just call that a day, and those will be our 5 2-drops. 5 is pretty much the ideal number of 2-drops, so pretty happy with that. And this looks like a fine curve, a little bit top-heavy, but we have Druid of the Cowl and Leafkin Druid making up for that at 2 mana. Yeah, this looks pretty spicy to me. We need to cut 11 cards, and we've put 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cards in the pile to be cut, so we will have to cut one more card here, even cutting all of those out of the deck, which I guess I will do. So cutting one more card here, maybe Lavakin Brawler, because it doesn't have 4 power just the second it hits the board, and with, again, Furious Rise Tyrannodon, we'd like all of our 4+ mana cards to do so, and if we cut Lavakin Brawler, then literally all of our 4 mana creatures have 4 more power. Only one of our 5 mana cards doesn't, and that's our Spark Tongue Dragon. And then all of our 6 mana cards do. So yeah, that makes the vast majority of our 4 and ups have power 4. We'll double check our elemental count here. 6 elementals. 6 elementals seems pretty sweet for the Brawler. But at the same time, what else would I be cutting here? Like a Truffle Snout, I guess? I mean, yeah, it makes the most sense for our curve to cut something at 4 or up over one of the 3 mana cards. Although I guess these ramp cards, Druid of the Cowl and Leafkin Druid, they both jump the curve, where if you play this on turn 2 and play a land on turn 3, you have 4 mana on turn 3 instead of 3 mana, which means you just skip over playing your 3 mana card and dump out a 4 mana one, which could help emphasize just having more 4s than 3s, so that those occasions where we do drop these on turn 2, we have a more powerful hand on average, because we'll draw a 4-drop over a 3-drop more often than not. That being said, the hands where we don't have one of these, and then we also don't have a 3-drop, are going to be really rough. So yeah, I'm not sure how much that actually makes sense. I think I'm going to keep the Truffle Snout in. I mean, I guess alternatively, we could even just cut like a Tormenting Voice and just have a creature-heavy deck here, 19 creatures. But then we are just banking on Furious Rise to put in some work late game to stop us from flooding out. Having just like one more option that helps against flood is nice. Yeah, no, I'm gonna keep Tormenting Voice. We gotta cut a creature here. 19 is over enough. I am gonna cut Lavakin Brawler, I think. Actually, at the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, so if we attack with Lavakin Brawler when we have at least one other elemental on board, it is 4 power during that turn. I'm not sure how the timing works. It's only going to be 4 power until the end of the turn, but this also triggers at the end of the turn. So I think that this would count the Lavakin Brawler as having 4 power before its power gets removed, I think. So we could just cut like Havoc Devils instead. I don't know, we'll find out. I'm going to cut Havoc Devils. We'll see if that interaction ever comes up. if attacking with the Brawler to make it 4 power makes it trigger Furious Rise before it loses its power. We'll see if that interaction comes up. I would assume it gets to keep the power long enough to trigger Furious Rise, but I guess we'll find out here. I'll keep Lavakin Brawler over the Havoc Devils, and the reason is, with 6 elementals in this deck, I think on average this is going to be attacking as a 4/4, which means on average I would want a 4/4 over a 4/3 trample. I think that just the extra toughness is pretty important. Toughness is always pretty sweet, not dying to, 3/3s and stuff, not dying to 3 mana cards. And then, of course, sometimes Lavakin Brawler can also attack as a 5/4 or 6/4. I did not name this deck. We gotta name this something here. With a bunch of hexproof in here, we'll just go with a foolproof strategy. And there's one more thing I forgot to check, and that is our mana base. It's going for an exact even split here. That's probably correct, but take another look at it, make sure that we agree with Arena here. 13 red, 10 green, but we have a boatload of cheap green and a double green card there. Yeah, I think the 50-50 split is right to me. Yep, that's all good to me. All right, now let's get into the gameplay and see how this deck does. This is going to be a fun deck for sure. Very simple deck to run, I think. Just green-red beats, green-red monsters. Should be a nice change of pace from the blue-red deck we played last time. Alright, awkward hand here. Don't have any of our 2 or 3 mana creatures, so we're not really getting onto the ground early. But in the late game, we do have some power. Gnarled Sage and Incinerator, some big cards to jump on the board, or dump on the board. And Furious Rise, good card draw engine once we get those out. Worst case scenario, if our opponent plays pretty aggressively here, we can just discard our 6 mana card, the Incinerator, to draw a couple cards, try to draw some cheap stuff. Our opponent does not play aggressively, but I also kind of still want to cast Tormenting Voice and do something this turn. So we know next turn we're going to play Boggart Brute. Turn after that we probably play like Furious Rise, then we play Sage, then we play Incinerator for lucky. But we are three land draws away from dropping Incinerator. I guess... Turn 4 here, like all I'm going to do is drop Furious Rise, so I'm just going to pass. Probably wrong, almost definitely wrong, but because we don't have a plan for turn 4 anyway, other than put something that doesn't have an immediate impact on the board, I think we could just hold Tormenting Voice, and then if we really need to dig, then we can just Tormenting Voice on turn 4 here. So our opponent is on green-red as well. They start with an Elvish Rejuvenator, a 3-mana 1/1 that grabs a land from the top 5 cards of their library and puts it into play tapped. Now they drop a Wolfkin Bond here. I think I'll just take the trade. Yeah, fine by me. Wolfkin Bond giving that 1/1 +2/+2 and spinning a wolf out, so they made it a 3/3 and sped out a 2/2. Alright, so 4 mana. We do have a Lavakin Brawler mana here, so we'll drop that down. Excellent draw. Opponent has 6 mana out and 4 cards in hand, and Chandra Novice Pyromaster is here again. That's the one thing I didn't miss about M20. It was the Chandra-themed set, so Chandra got Planeswalker at Uncommon, and she is Planeswalker level power. Very strong card. Not super great on this board state, though, because the most powerful part of Chandra is the -2. You would just get hosed in some limited games where you'd have a 2/2 on turn 2, a 3/2 on turn 3, and then your opponent just plays some blockers throughout that time, then drops Chandra. All of a sudden, Chandra just gets to shoot your 2/2 and your 3/2 and stick around plussing herself. So those games, Chandra's just nasty. But this game, our creatures are all sturdy, so we're not going to have that bad of a time here. Yeah, I think I just like playing a big old Tree Folk here. Probably bash Chandra for 3. That's half her health here. Cool. Yeah, no, this Chandra is not that bad news for our green-red deck. Ooh, Pelakka Worm. Pelakka Worm is a disgusting card. 7 mana for a 7/7 trample, gain 7 life, and draw a card when it dies. Super sick stuff. So we are gonna get 2 for 1 here, because I'm gonna finish that off with Reduce to Ashes. But luckily, because Reduce to Ashes exiles it, they won't draw a card when it dies, so we're not getting 3 for 1. We're just getting 2 for 1 to get it off the board, which I think is worth it. That thing's just massive, and we don't have any removal big enough to kill it unless we throw a creature and a removal spell at it like we did there. So, I mean, that worked pretty well. They've got 2 cards left in their hand. They added mana with Chandra. Oh no, 8 mana here? Spark Tongue Dragon or something? Please, just like a Spark Tongue Dragon, because that wouldn't be the end of the world. But if this is like a big bomb like Palaka Worm again, might just die to some sweet cards. No, just a Viashino Pyromancer here. 2 damage to us, and then 1 card left in their hand. Alright, plus the elementals. Alright, whatever their other card in their hand, it's probably something expensive, and that does terrify me. Alright, I like just dropping a 6/6 trample here. Again, just kind of harassing Chandra. I guess Chandra still doesn't actually matter that much. But I don't want them to be sitting here with like a 10 loyalty Chandra and then just shutting off any 2 power creatures we draw into. But Chandra has gained them a lot of life here by me just constantly attacking her. So let's see. They still have that 1 card in hand. Everything else is just mana here. Maybe Banefire is what they were considering adding the extra mana for. That's just like X mana to do X damage. It is Banefire. Alright, so kill the Incinerator, but we're winning on this board state. They just have a 2/1 and a Chandra. We have 3 cards left in hand. Alright, things are looking well here. Things are looking quite swell. Ooh, and they get aggressive with the Pyromancer. They're just going to let Chandra die here. Because they're like, well, opponent's never going to play a 2 toughness creature, which they very well may be right. We have not drawn a 2 toughness creature here. So I'm going to Tormenting Voice, discard this Mountain. Yeah, because I don't really want to cast Spark Tongue Dragon until I have 8 mana anyway, and I probably hit more lands here. I don't want to discard Furious Rise, although maybe it's the right choice, because I don't have a 4-power creature on the board, and I don't know when I will. But if we get a 4-power creature on the board and a Furious Rise, we just can't possibly lose that game, because we're drawing a 2 a turn and our opponent's drawing 1. So in a top deck situation like this, I think that card is so ridiculously powerful, we discard the land, even though we kind of want it for the dragon. Ooh, Vine Mare Bone Pit Brute feels awesome. Now we get to drop Vine Mare next turn. Actually, probably just get aggressive and drop Bone Pit Brute. But we could also do Furious Rise. Yep, force them into a chump block here and get a bunch of extra damage in. Seems fine by me, and then we have a 4 or 5 menace left over. Cool. So we threw the power onto the Brawler instead of the Vine Mare because we get in for 1 more damage that way. If we threw it on the Vine Mare, that'd be 9 power, and that'd be 4. So they take 4. This way, that was 8 power, that was 5. So they stopped the 8 and took 5. Now I do like dropping the Furious Rise, because again, I still don't want to drop this dragon until I have 8 mana, really. So just drop Furious Rise, and we can drop Skyscanner as well. Draw a card, maybe hit a land for turn and play it. Awesome, we did hit land for turn. We hit a Scorching Dragonfire. Excellent card here. If they play anything with 3 or less toughness, it just dies, and then we do pretty much lethal to them on board. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Actually 1 damage off from lethal, but close enough. Our opponent is out of this one. That is the concession, and 1-0 to start off. Ooh, I need to change my daily so I can try to get 750 gold here. Yeah, we did it. Swapped our 500 gold quest for a 750. That's always a good feeling. Always a bit of a bummer when you swap your quest and it's just like, oh, here's a different 500 gold quest. Alright, game 2. Again, none of our 2/3 mana cards here, but I am fine with it. Again, worst case scenario, we just slam Tormenting Voice turn 2 and hope to draw a 3-drop creature. We have, I think, 4 of them in the deck. It's not the most unlikely thing ever. Of course, have 5 2-drops as well. So I guess if we're really digging for something to play with Tormenting Voice, like 2-mana cards work as well, if we draw a 2-mana card with it. And we have 5 mana already. The most expensive card in our hand is 5 mana, but the odds of drawing another land, drawing 2 this turn and 1 every other turn are so high. Very fine to discard a land here, just get our Tormenting Voice going. Alright, so an Ember Hauler and an Incinerator. We do need another red to cast that Ember Hauler, but it's pretty great on this board state. You could just block and trade with something, or we can sacrifice it to kill something if we want. So we could drop Furious Rise, get that out of the way, so that when we play Avenger, we immediately draw a card. But we don't need that card draw till late game, because we have a perfect curve of 4, 5, and 6 drops. So I'm just going to play Ember Hauler for now. Because the odds of hitting a card at random with Furious Rise that we would want to cast more than just casting Rock's Oracle and then just casting Incinerator are so low that I don't think there's actually any value to be gained by having Furious Rise out until after we've cast all these. So we'll just make sure to get a blocker and not immediately die. I think that I would rather trade with the Magmut than the Hobble Fiend. They both have good abilities. The Magmut can deal damage to us just by tapping itself throughout this game, and the Hobble Fiend can get bigger by sacrificing other stuff, and it has Trample, but I think we are pretty likely to be able to block this card with just our big green-red stuff. Whereas the Magmut, of course, can still damage us even if we have plenty to block. So our opponent is on red-white. I don't believe I mentioned that here. They've only cast red cards so far. It is turn 5 now, 3 cards in their hand. Inspiring Captain is the play. Give that +1/+1 so they can attack in. If I block, we trade. Seems like a terrible trade to me. So I'll go down to 13 here. Although that being said, we have such a good late game here, we could still consider trading. But I don't think I want to there. Awesome. That was a fantastic draw. Because now with 2 4-power creatures out, we get to tap that for double green and just slam Druid down. I still kind of would have liked to have Avenger as a blocker here. That's why I didn't tap Avenger and just play the 6/6, because I like having more blockers. Yeah, so they're down to 2 cards in hand here. We can trade with all their creatures on the board here. Like, either, if we block, like... Sorry. If we block like this, either we trade here, or we trade here, and then this trades into the Battlements, because they sacrifice the Battlements to save the Hobble Fiend, but that, like, still gets one of their cards off the board. Any way that this combat goes, unless they have a trick in hand, they're stuck with 1 creature left on the board and 2 cards in hand. I think this hand can beat, you know, 1 small creature and 2 cards in hand. So, yeah, we're definitely good to set up these trades. Especially because we still have like a 4/3 on the board after all that, because we did have the Avenger tapped. But I think even if we kept the Avenger untapped here, I would trade the Avenger into one of these at this point. Ooh, Chandra's Outrage is excellent. So... I think we can just drop a 6/6 though. I guess I have the mana to cast Outrage and Furious Rise, and then I can just cast whatever I hit off Furious Rise next turn. Yeah, the odds of haste are not super high. There aren't a lot of great haste cards in these core sets. But there is like a 4-mana 3/3 haste and stuff like that they could play if they wanted to. But I wouldn't be that scared. Alright, so we hit Gnarled Sage here. So this is the awkward part of getting the Furious Rise out early, is that now we're just going to end up casting whatever we hit with Furious Rise so that we don't end up discarding it. So we're just not going to play our 6/6 here, we're just going to play a Gnarled Sage. And then again, next turn, we're just going to play whatever we hit there. Luckily, it's a land there. That makes it nice and easy. Play a land and Incinerator. Luminous Bonds. Jeez. Yeah, we're getting got pretty hard by this Cavalier of Dawn, so did not mention that. They played a 5-mana 4/6 Vigilance and destroyed our best card, turned it into a 3/3. And when it dies, they get an artifact or enchantment from their grave to their hand. They don't have one in grave. But yeah, 4/6 Vigilance is a pretty big game here. They still have 2 cards in hand, and they didn't play a land that turn, so they have 2 real cards in their hand. Alright, so I'm going to let this land just go away so that I can cast both of these cards, make it more likely I can actually slam off a double block on the 4/6 here. So even if they have Luminous Bonds or something to kill Incinerator, we can double block the 4/6 with 2 3/3s. because again, I don't want to die, and as long as this Furious Rise keeps doing its thing, which it will, we have a Gnarled Sage on board they're not going to throw a second removal spell at, then I think we're still in a great spot, because we're casting potentially 2 spells a turn, and they're stuck with 1. So Lavakin Brawler's the play. We have Scorching Dragonfire available in hand as well. Feeling really good here. We can even just hold Scorching Dragonfire up for a great block and just send in Incinerator. Worst case scenario is it trades 1 for 1 for the Cavalier, which isn't bad at all. Like, they block with a 4/6 and a 4/4. We just kill their best creature on the board and don't have to worry about it anymore, and they're stuck with a 1/1 and a 4/4 left. That's fine by me, I think. Just cash it in here. Get this, this scary threat out of the way. Alright. Yeah, just hold on to the Dragonfire, I think. Alright, just a land from Furious Rise next turn. Daybreak Charger gives something +2/+0 until end of turn. Alright, that's fine. We can 1 for 1 trade because of Scorching Dragonfire, so we just trade our 3/3 for their 3/3 by shooting the Splicer to make it a 3/3 instead of a 4/4. Alright, they're down to a 3/1. We're still drawing 2 cards every turn. Alright, a 3/1 and a 4/3. But either way, we're still drawing 2 cards a turn. Statistically, things should work pretty well for us here. And that is a great start to it, a Sky Scanner. Flyer to start chipping in for 1 a turn, even if we want to hold everything else back for blocks. And we draw a Tyrannodon. Play it real safe, get some more blockers out. We do need to kill our opponent before we run out of cards. We're down to 15 cards. We have drawn a boatload. That being said, I don't think we should have any huge problems with that. So 3/3 to block the 4/3, 1/1 to block the 3/1. On board, we're doing great. We'll just send everything in here. Make sure that we're putting as much pressure on as quickly as possible so I don't just die to mill here. Alright, so they're going to trade for the Barkhide Troll, and we draw into a Boggart Brute. Excellent card. 3 mana, 3/2 Menace. That will get some damage in here. They're looking over our cards here, checking out Furious Rise, Tyrannodon, Sky Scanner, Brawler, just observing it all here. And they pass the turn. At 9 life, I still don't think I'm at the point where I want to attack all, so I'm actually just going to hold the Sky Scanner back. Because that's only getting in for 1 damage, everything else is getting in for 3. Alright, so they do trade with the Devils. Now we drop the Brute and pass the turn. Destructive Digger is the draw from the Furious Rise. This card really going off for us. So glad that I took this card, because it is putting in massive work this game for sure. Ten cards left in library. They're at 5 health against a bunch of stuff on board, and there is the concession. So we do manage to kill them before we mill ourselves out with the Furious Rise, the one potential concern there. And that will rank us into Diamond. Alright, 2-0 now, heading into Game 3. And the biggest lesson there, the biggest thing we learned that game was Furious Rise is super sweet if you don't have a lot of card draw in your deck and you do have a lot of power 4 or greater creatures. It plays particularly well against pacifism style removal like Luminous Bonds that our opponent played, because that's a removal spell that just keeps the card on the board, so we still technically had a 4-power creature on board that whole game, which activated our Tyrannodon and activated our Furious Rise. That was pretty huge. Alright. I don't think our deck is as slow as the hands that we've been drawing, but I'll take them either way. They are sweet hands regardless of the speed. And we did immediately draw Ember Hauler, which is excellent. Kitesail Freebooter is annoying, but we weren't going to be casting Furious Rise anyway, or at least we weren't going to be drawing cards off of it for a little while anyway. That being said, we're probably going to cash in our Ember Hauler eventually to kill the Freebooter. Not going to do it immediately because we can start hitting them for 2 a turn since they don't have another creature on the board. But we'll do it if they try to removal spell the Hauler, or we'll do it whenever we actually want to cast Furious Rise, which is not yet. So mono black so far from our opponent, probably stuck off of their second color. They've just played a Kite Sail Freebooter, a 1/2 flyer that exiles a card from our hand until it dies. Ooh, draw a 5-mana card when we've got the Mana Dork to tap for 5. Seems pretty good. But it's probably better to hold up the mana for Ember Hauler at all times so that they can't shut it off. Yeah. And with an Elemental on the board, I kind of like slamming down the Lavakin Brawler. Could play a little better against removal by just playing a Vine Mare, just a big old Hexproofer, but Brawler hits them for just as much damage. Or not just as much, one less. And potentially draws removal for other stuff to get in. Ooh, Village Rites, alright. Was not expecting that. So they do sacrifice the Freebooter here, and that allows us to cast the Furious Rise when we want it. And a Hooded Blightfang from our opponent, a 1/4 Death Toucher. And whenever a Death Touch creature they control attacks, we lose a life and they gain a life. Ooh, Scorching Dragonfire is the draw. I don't want to 2-for-1 ourselves to kill that Blightfang, so I think I'm still just attacking with the 4/4 here. Yeah, because I don't want to spend my Hauler and my Dragonfire to kill their one card. I don't think it's that threatening that I want to do that. It's not as threatening as that Pelakka Worm was round 1. So I don't think it's worth the 2-card trade. And the Lavakin Brawler, threatening enough that our opponent takes the 1-for-1 trade there. So we'll take it. Now we get to slam all our mana into Rock's Oracle, or again, hold the 1-up for Ember Hauler. Probably playing it just stupidly safe here, but I'm just going to keep holding 1 mana up because our 4-mana creatures have just as much impact as our 5-mana creatures on board. The big draw to the Rock's Oracle is that it does draw a card, but when we already have plays lined up for the next several turns, we don't need to draw any more cards yet. Same reason I'm not casting Furious Rise. So, again, like, we impact the board just as much, just dropping down Vine Mare, and this way we get to hold up Ember Hauler just in case as well. Alright, well, Vine Mare can't be blocked by black creatures, and our opponent being mono black so far. Vine Mare looking really sweet this game. We just dome them for 5 every turn. So am I at the point where I just want to cash in Ember Hauler, because it's pretty much never going to attack well. Because if it attacks into the 1/4 Death Touch, it dies without dealing damage. If it attacks into the 2/2, it trades with the 2/2 anyway. I think I'm going to cash in the Ember Hauler at this point. Take that 1-for-1 trade with it, and then have all my mana available to do whatever I want with this turn. Obviously, Vine Mare for just 5 a turn, got to kill them very quickly here. It's our main plan. So Rock's Oracle, draw a card and trade that off with Blightfang seems fine. Could also... Can't cast Incinerator. Yeah, no. Just go with the Rock's Oracle here. We could play Druid of the Cowl instead, but just get some big impact on the board. Well, Vine Mares are going to be ridiculous in this matchup. We've drawn a second one against what seems to be mono black so far. So they do attack with Blightfang because it can't block anyway. Yeah, I would honestly rather play another Vine Mare than an Incinerator here. Just unblockable card. So they're down to 10. We don't hit them for lethal next turn because they do gain 1 life from Blightfang when it attacks. But we get real close. We could... This needs 4 creatures? No, that needs 4 creatures. If this just needed 3 creatures, we could play Druid and Vine Mare. Fortunately, we can't do that because we need double green to cast Vine Mare. So we won't have another green ready for Druid. But I guess we get to hold up Scorching Dragonfire, so it's not the end of the world. And Vine Mare is definitely our best card to put on the board. Just unblockable against their deck. And of course doesn't die to their stack of removal they have in mono black, probably sitting in their hand. Alright. Gloomsower's the play in 8/6. Alright then. Massive card here. We could 2-for-1 into that, and we'll probably have to with what our removal looks like in this deck. So we hit them for 5. Oh wait, we don't have to because it's a black card, so it can't block. That being said, we need to survive. So now we need to be concerned about how we're blocking this card. We could go Barkhide Troll plus Scorching Dragonfire. I don't think we're holding a Vine Mare back. Because, like, even with gaining 3 life here, they're just going to die next turn to double Vine Mare. Because they're going to be at 3. So yeah, even if we do the block and they gain 2, and then the Blight Fang gains 1. So, we could go Druid, now Leafkin Druid taps for double green, then we tap Leafkin Druid to play Barkhide Troll, then we hold up Scorching Dragonfire and Barkhide Troll's Hexproof ability. And just have a boatload of blockers, potentially, for chumps. Seems good to me. Yeah, and then still not casting Furious Rise. This is going to be one of those games where Furious Rise is not that great because we are just playing aggressively enough to just cast everything else we're doing instead. Don't need the card draw engine. Alright, well, they do gain more life by me blocking here, but we take significantly less damage, so I'm still going to do it. Go for the Dragonfire in the end step. Alright, they just concede. Nothing they can really do about the Vine Mares, just showing off how absurdly powerful Hexproof is and kind of why they stopped printing Hexproof recently and changed it to Ward, because Vine Mare is probably the least fun card that my opponent is going to play against today. They're playing mono black, and I played a card with Hexproof, so they can't target it with any of their removal, and they just can't block it with any of their creatures, so it's a pretty horrible game for our opponent, and a really lucky matchup for us. So that will lead us into 3-0. Really showing off the power of Hexproof there. But, I mean, the ability to be unblockable was also massive. And that comes up less often, so pretty interesting there. Just shaking my flavored water. Grabbing a drink between rounds as always. So very happy with how things have gone so far. I do think this deck is pretty sweet. So would have been a little unhappy to go less than 3-3 here, but now we're guaranteed to do at least that well as we head into round 4. Alright, sweet hand. Dragonfire to get rid of an early creature from our opponent if they're super aggressive. We can play aggressively and go 3-3 into 5-3 here, and then just play the Sky Scanner later when we need the card draw. Or we could just play the Sky Scanner immediately. I guess if they play like a 3-1, then just dropping down a Sky Scanner turn 3 could be pretty sweet. If our opponent goes like turn 2, 3-1. But other than that, we're probably just playing Truffle Snout first and getting more aggressive. Again, casting our card draw once we need to draw cards to play. Alright, red-white from our opponent, so Boros aggro. Well, that is an assumption. They are definitely Boros. And Raise the Alarm is the first play. Spit out 2 1/1s for 2 mana. Drowsing Pteranodon going to be pretty good against those if they don't have the removal to clear it out of the way. An Alpine Houndmaster from our opponent, a 2/2. They can search their library for an Alpine Watchdog or Igneous Cur. Unlikely that they have both. Alright, so they do have just the one. So still a good card, even if you just have one of those two. So 2 mana for a 2/2, draw another creature into their hand. When it attacks, it gets +X/+O, where X is the number of other attacking creatures. So it attacks really large, so Dragonfire on that seems pretty sweet to me. That being said, we can also just trade it with any of our early game creatures. I'll stick around for that. Let's just play all of our early creatures and get ready to trade on blocks here. We know from how all the rest of our rounds pretty much have gone that we have a very impactful late game, and probably more impactful of a late game than whatever a Boros deck can work with here. So we will do what we can, trading off our creatures early to survive as long as possible. Yeah, so this Houndmaster, even on this board, attacks as a 4/2 if they attack with everybody, but that would require them basically sacrificing a 1/1 to get in for that extra damage, because I would, you know, trade there and then trade with the, or not trade, but block a 1/1 and kill it without losing a creature. So it is a really threatening looking ability, but it doesn't actually do too much right now. Alright, so they do run out the Igneous Cur and the Heartfire Immolator. That is, it's basically our goblin thing. They can sacrifice it to deal damage equal to its power to a creature planeswalker. This one, though, has prowess, so it's possible that it sacrifices for more than 2 damage. So if they cast, next turn they spend 2 mana, do 3 damage to one of these, and then get a prowess trigger, sacrifice that, kill that, that would be pretty disastrous for us. So I'm a little concerned about that. We could go Tormenting Voice and hold up a Dragonfire just to play around that so we can kill Houndmaster even if they wipe our board. We could also just play Skyscanner and know that we have at least 3 blockers to be able to chump block Houndmaster if they go 2 mana removal and then sack Immolator. I think I prefer the Tormenting Voice line because I really want to kill this Houndmaster. Just having a 1-1 out, like I trade with a 1-1, I don't actually trade with any of these. So yeah, to play around like a Scorching Dragonfire from our opponent, I'm going to go Tormenting Voice and hold up Dragonfire here. And obviously if they don't have a 2 mana or less removal spell, then it's still fine that we don't have a 1-1 out. Because instead, now we'll just like probably not get attacked if they can't kill one of our creatures. And then we can just Dragonfire the Houndmaster in their end step, I guess. Be mana efficient there, make the best use of all of our mana, regardless of what happens. So that would be the dream draw if I were my opponent, would be literal Scorching Dragonfire, shoot that, kill Truffle Snout, but looks like that is not happening here. A Seasoned Hallowblade from our opponent, a 3-1, they can discard a card to give it indestructible until end of turn. We're definitely going to want to 4-4 to block this, because otherwise every land they draw late game just turns into another 1-for-1. They just discard a land to kill our 3-3 if we block with a 3-3. So Hallowblade, a really sweet card here. They are going to send in the Igneous Cur, that would be a 1-for-1 trade. They're going to send in the Houndmaster maybe for a 1-for-1 trade here. I'd like them to send in both. I think I would just take both of the 1-for-1 trades and then shoot the Immolator and just not have to deal with it later. Then they're down to just 2 1-1s and a 3-1. Alright, they don't send in the Houndmaster though, so just the Igneous Cur, again a 1-for-1 trade. So I do want to cast this removal spell anyway, because I want to make the use of my mana. So do I want to spend this on the Cur and keep 2 3-3s on this board, or do I want to kill the Cur and the Houndmaster here? Could also kill the Immolator instead. That way Rock's Oracle can stick around even though it only has 2 toughness. That being said, a 4-2 doesn't really help us block anyway. It just blocks the 1-1s well and that's it. So I'm not sure I actually want to Dragonfire the Immolator. Could be wrong here, but I'm just going to go for killing as many of their creatures as possible rather than keeping as many of mine out as possible. Just want to stunt their aggression. So we have Vine Mare, which they can't target, which is kind of sweet. Hallowblade is an issue. We have nothing big enough to block this Hallowblade. Could play a Skyscanner and then just block the Hallowblade with the Skyscanner, force them to discard a card. But again, they can just discard a land every turn that they draw a land. Oh, I'm at 20 here. We've played it very conservatively, very safely so far. So we could also just slam down a Rock's Oracle, see what we draw for next turn. Maybe that draws the Immolator out. Either way, with only 2 toughness, it was going to 1-for-1 trade into a small creature regardless. Yeah, we'll just slam an Oracle out, I guess. Be mana efficient here again. Spend all of our mana. Let the Hallowblade get some hits in, I guess. Certainly worried about this card. So 4 lands on the board and 4 cards in hand. It is possible that they have more lands and they're just not showing them because they're holding them for Seasoned Hallowblade. But it's also possible that that hand is all action. Aeromancer's Cage, well, looking pretty action-y so far. If they have a mountain in hand, they're going to drop that and kill the Oracle too. Well, actually, no. Because they could already kill the Oracle if they really wanted to. They're not actually getting, like, prowess value there. Alright, yeah, I'm just going to trade because they can always sacrifice the Immolator to kill the Oracle at any point, so we might as well stop damage while we get rid of that. Alright, Furious Rise is the draw. So I could go Skyscanner, Furious Rise this turn, Vinemare next turn, and then it's active. I could also just play Vinemare this turn, and then next turn Furious Rise Scanner. Which is better? Like, playing both 3-drops is more mana efficient, and then I can block the 3-1 with a 1-1 and maybe get them to discard a card and still stop 3 damage. In worst case scenario, we still drew a card out of it. Alternatively, Vinemare might convince them not to attack with Hallowblade, but I severely doubt it. Because then, like, I just block with a 5-3, or I attack with a 5-3, they just chump block 2 turns in a row. Vinemare isn't doing much on attacks. Yeah, I think I go Skyscanner here. One of the reasons is because I don't know what I'm going to draw. Maybe I'll draw something that I want to cast more than Furious Rise right now. Because I could also, like, next turn I'll have 7 mana. I can cast Vinemare and Furious Rise in the same turn next turn. If I draw something else for 3 or less here, that's good. I can just play that, and then next turn have the mana to do both of these. So let's see what we get. Just a land, so it will be Furious Rise coming on out here. So the 1/1s are going to start coming in on the ground, though, which is something that wouldn't have happened if we played Vinemare. Ooh, Inspiring Captain. Yeah, that is really nasty. Vinemare would have been much better in hindsight here, because now we're taking 4 extra damage instead of just 2 extra damage. Vinemare would have still blocked 2/2s. I think I will cash in the chump block on the Hallowblade, though. Well, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 go to 9 life. Against Boros, 9 life is rough. But if I do take that trade next turn, all I know is I have a 5-3 and that's it. And then the 5-3 just trades for the captain and we take like 5. I think I'll keep the Skyscanner, force them to discard when we stop the damage next turn. We're going to take 1 more damage in the grand scheme of things, but I think I can afford to take 1 more point of damage to also force them into discarding a card when we block the Hallowblade. And Chandra's Outrage is a sweet draw. Unfortunately, we don't have 8 mana, so we can't go Vinemare Outrage. So I think we just play Vinemare because we need to get that card draw off of Furious Rise, if at all possible. So what do we have for 3 or less mana at instant speed? Just trying to see if we need to hold up any specific mana. We don't have anything for 3 or less left in our deck at instant speed, so yeah, it doesn't matter how we cast here. We'll just slam down Vinemare, let the auto tapper do its thing. Boggart Brute is the draw. We can definitely cast that next turn alongside our Outrage. Alright, send in the squad. So I really don't like not getting rid of the captain here, but I don't think I can afford to not have a power 4 greater creature out for Furious Rise. And like I can't guarantee that I top deck a power 4 greater creature. Boggart Brute is not big enough to trigger it, so I think we have to block like this and take 4. Definitely not a fan of our position. Our opponent is probably off to an aggressive enough start here that they just win. Oh yeah, I mean Inspired Charge is just the card for these decks. Yeah, no, there's no way out here. That's brutal. Whole field gets +2, +1. They kill everything we blocked with and still put us down to 1 life as well. So very aggressive Boros aggro deck there that is going to outpace us and grab the first win against us. So 3-1 now as we head into round 5. We're on the play. Leafkin Druid turn 2. If we hit a red source by turn 3, we slam down Leafkin Avenger. If we don't, we still have Sky Scanner, which draws more cards, digs for the red. Pretty into it. No red mana is definitely a risk, but 2 castable spells, one of them drawing us a card when we play it, it's a risk I'm willing to take here. Alright. Another aggro deck here. They're just going to slam down a 1-drop here. 1 mana for a 1/3 Staunch Shieldmate. And green-white are their colors. A pack leader turn 2. All their dogs get +1/+1. Whenever it attacks, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to dogs they control, including the pack leader. So it's basically an indestructible attacker, but not that scary. Alright, no red mana here, so we will drop the Sky Scanner. We already have a 0/3 to block the 2/2. Don't really need a 3/3 to block. Although a 3/3 is dramatically better on this board than a 1/1 flyer. Yeah, you know, I'm gonna still just go with the Truffle Snout, I guess. Get the 3/3 out here. Blanchwood Armor, yes! Blanchwood Armor represent opponent. I'm proud. I am so proud of our opponent here. That is my kind of card. They only have the 1 forest right now, but Blanchwood Armor is really good on pack leader because it's an indestructible attacker anyway. So that's a 3/3 that I can't damage. We do have Scorching Dragonfire as soon as we hit a red source, so. Not gonna be a massive deal if they don't get another forest here. Alright, we definitely need a Sky Scanner now. We need to draw this red source as quickly as possible. Need to draw it before they draw another green source. Beautiful. There it is. Scorch that pack leader before that Blanchwood Armor really goes off. Now we get to start attacking with our 3/3. We'll trade blows, our 3/3 to their 1/3 all day long. We will handedly win that race. Snare Spinner. Well, Sky Scanner is not going to be getting in anytime soon. That is a 1/3 reach. Do have the mana for Bone Pit Root here. I guess I could buff the Sky Scanner and attack with both, and now they could trade the Sky Scanner for the Snare Spinner. That seems fine to me. We also get a 4/5 Menace out that way, which is a massive threat. Super hard to block. So they trade Snare Spinner for Sky Scanner, or they take 5 here. Not a great couple of choices there. So we do get to get that Snare Spinner out of the way with our Sky Scanner, thanks to its temporary buff from the Brute. Our opponent is stuck on 3 mana here. We'll just keep bashing in with our big stuff. Hope that that is enough to close things out. Alright, a chump block from the Shieldmate here. Ooh, alright, Combat Trick. Go ahead and eat our 3/3. So we do have the mana for Leafkin Avenger and Tyrannodon. Next turn we have a 4/5 Menace, a 4/3, and a 3/3 to attack with, and the mana to shoot our opponent for 4 damage with Leafkin's Avenger's ability and still attack with it. Because we have 6 from our lands and 2 from our Leafkin Druid, so we have the 8 mana. Alright, so they are just dead. Grook's Uprising doesn't impact the board. So shoot here, attack everybody. We hit for at least 7. They block there, take 4, 5, 6, 7. And that will be game. Leafkin Avenger really closing that game out just super fast. But a lot of that game was just opponent being stuck on mana. Still a fan of the Leafkin Avenger's performance overall there. So we are at 4-1 now. If you own pretty much all the cards in the sets like I do, or you value getting more cards added to your collection, then 4-3 is where you're really in the value, because you're getting almost all of the gems that you paid back, and a bunch of cards for your collection, or more gems by drafting more rares. So 4-3 is where I'm always happy to go. But 5 wins is where You are legitimately making more gems than you paid in. Alright, so I did not mention it because I was taking a drink and talking about other stuff. But this hand was a little bit of a risky keep. Essentially, I kept this hand because I was just treating it as another slow hand where we just didn't have a 2 or 3 mana card, like worst case scenario. Best case scenario, we get really lucky like we did, and just hit double red for Ember Hauler immediately. Do I want to trade for this champion? This gets permanent +1/+1 counters, right? So like here I'm either trading for the champion or trading for a combat trick. I feel like they don't attack in with this unless they're playing something better than it here. Right? That the Hauler could kill. Because like if they have a lot of token production in their deck, I think they just don't attack here. And just try to make that a 3/3 before I can shoot it. I don't know. We'll trade blows for now, but I might be wrong there. Maybe we're supposed to just trade the Ember Hauler into the champion immediately. Yeah, I think there's 2 options that make sense to me. One is that they have a better 2 toughness creature in their hand, and the other is that they have just a combat trick here. Ooh, Leafkin Avenger of their own. The Leafkin Avenger battle here. Could just kill that immediately with Chandra's Outrage and still attack for 3 this turn, play a little slowly that way, play Rock's Oracle next turn. I'm kind of fine with that, because Leafkin Avenger does set up some good plays for them, potentially. Adding another mana for them, potentially 2 more mana if they get more powerful or greater creatures. Be a little scared at what Leafkin Avenger might give them access to, so we'll just clear that off the board right now and stay aggro, hitting them down to 13 life now. They are green, red, and white, so a Naya deck from our opponent, and Valor's Steed is the play this turn, a 3/3 and a 2/2 that does make a token for the Woodland Champion. So I guess in the grand scheme of things, we should have just traded the Ember Hauler off. But we do have a Rock's Oracle to trade into the champion now. Still chip in for 1 damage a turn with Sky Scanner, seems fine. We are down to 13 here, so a little scared of removal from our opponent to clear Oracle out of the way. Bosri's Acolyte, super premium white common from M21. That card is sick. 2/3 lifelinker, and it puts a +1/+1 counter onto 2 of their creatures. So now the Valorous Steed is a 4/4. The Knight token is a 3/3, so we'll trade into the best creature we can with the Oracle here. They do have a green mana up. If they had a 1 mana combat trick this whole time for the Ember Hauler, they could use it now on the Oracle. And they do, Might of the Masses, but they're going to use it to do extra damage to us, hit us for 10 here. Well, we have a good pile of lands if we need some stuff. If we need to cast 8 mana stuff. I mean, I guess we have enough lands to really use Leafkin Avenger's ability, if nothing else. We do die to like 1 removal spell here. Things are looking not great. Yeah, and we can't survive not blocking here. So we have to just let our whole board trade into their stuff. We have to top deck into something here. Alright, they only have 1 creature on board. We go down to 1 life here. So we do have 1 last draw step, potentially. I suppose we don't. Just another combat trick from our opponent. Well, pretty great aggressive start from our opponent, but we also just ran out of gas real quick. Just not finding the cards we were looking for. Four and 2 now as we head into round 7. Alright, turn 3 Boggart Brute, turn 4 Brawler. We got Fine Mare turn 4 if we hit another green source. Seems pretty sweet to me. We're on the play as well here, which is nice. Makes it a lot harder to just get demolished by the just quick Boros aggro kind of stuff that's been getting us. Suppose that last deck was Selesnya aggro, but the Boros decks have been scary, and one of those did take a game from us as well. All right. So our opponent is on white as well. Very scared of that. All the decks that have beaten us, just white aggressive strategies. Child of Night turn 2, a 2/1 lifelinker here. That dramatically outraces Boggart Brute, but we'll also have several creatures big enough to block that in the future. So I don't think we take the trade, even though it outraces. Pegasus Courser, so now that'll be sent into the sky. Alright. Drop down the Brawler or the Vine Mare here. Brawler's the better blocker, but we can't block anything they have because they're giving things flying, so we'll just play Vine Mare, the better attacker. Probably going to have to run out the Spark Tongue Dragon just for some flying defense here once we have 5 mana. Not really going to wait for the 8 on this. Get something that blocks the Pegasus Courser super well. Alright, well this is a scam. This is the most obvious combat trick in the history of mankind. I mean, there's a world in where it's not. There's a world in where they just really want to be able to block Vine Mare. But I assume this is a combat trick, and I'd rather trade for Pegasus Courser plus combat trick than Child of Night plus combat trick. And it is Blade Brand to go ahead and kill the Vine Mare there. So I could play a Brawler here, which is big enough to block Child of Night and crack back well, or Leafkin Druid to just make sure I can cast Spark Tongue Dragon next turn, or Incinerator if I hit a land. And it does block the Child of Night. I think I would rather just get an immediate attacker. Because now that I don't have to block flyers, I kind of want to keep Spark Tongue Dragon for when I have 8 mana, if I can. Oh, Lord. Leonin, a War Leader. I don't believe I have ever beat that card, and we might not be starting today. That is a 4/4. Every time it attacks, they get 2 1/1 lifelinkers. So now we really need to get like a 6/6 on this board. If we discard Leafkin Druid, we're super likely to hit the 6th land in the next 3 cards, right? Because we draw 2 right now, another next turn. And then we might hit like a 3 or less mana card that helps fight the War Leader. We're definitely not attacking here. Just holding off and trying to like triple block this War Leader, if possible. But if they have like combat tricks to protect it, it's going to be a disastrously bad time. We do draw Chandra's Outrage, but unfortunately we've already played our land for the turn, so we can't cast it this turn. We can cast it next turn, though. So 5 mana up from our opponent. If they attack here, I am expecting a scam. Because they, like, if we double block, they kill one of our 2 creatures. Alright, they just tap out for Epicure of Blood. Okay, we are going to maybe beat a War Leader here. We're going to kill the War Leader. Don't know if we'll win this game. We'll find out as things progress. But for now, I'm just getting rid of that. Getting rid of that War Leader. I don't want to deal with it. And save our creatures for the double block on Epicure here, potentially. That I would think is less likely to be a scam. Because it's possible that they just want to trade off the Epicure 1-for-1, because it is not anywhere near as high impact as the Leonin War Leader. Alright, so yeah, like, I'll take it. Take that 1-for-1 trade. Yep, they just want to kill the Lavakin Brawler there. Maybe they have something to return 2 creatures from their grave to hand or something. Nope. Alright, Indulgent Patrician. 1/4 flying lifelink at the beginning of their end step. If they gained 3 or more life, each opponent loses 3 life. Cool. So Child of Night and that attacking in together will do that. However, we're going to have more than enough blockers on the ground to block Child of Night, so I don't think that'll happen. They just keep draining us with that. We're at 17 life here, so we're pretty safe. Do I want to play the card that blocks the best, the Incinerator, or do I want to play the card that potentially draws the removal before we play our better card here? Kind of want to play Bone Pit Brute. That also lets us attack in pretty well. 7 power menace creature here. They have to double block, and we get to kill 2 things if they do. Otherwise, we hit them for 7, put them to 9. They do have lifelink, so it's not the best thing ever, but if they don't have removal, it plays pretty well. And if they do have removal, it's still solid because we get that out of the way and get to keep our Incinerator around when we cast it. This is also like a really threatening line because we have 7 menace damage on the board now. So 7 damage that has to be double blocked on each of them. So 3 cards in their hand. Great creatures in their grave if they do have any recursion. 6 mana available on board. A Pegasus Courser. Pegasus Courser, definitely scary. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th mana this turn. We get 8 mana for Spark-Tongue Dragon. That's going to be absolutely massive. They're at 9 life facing both these menace creatures. Costs 1 less to cast for each non-combat damage dealt to our opponents. Okay, so we can't cast this and Furious Rise here. I kind of want to cast Furious Rise for Spark-Tongue Dragon, but it's got to be better to just run out the Incinerator, right? Yeah, I think we attack both and run out Incinerator and just really hope for another land next turn. And if we don't hit another land, then it's probably still fine, because that means we just get to cast whatever we draw. Alright, let's see it. Alright, so they are going for some double blocks here. We get to clear some stuff off the board. I'm into that. Get the Incinerator down. Audacious Thief. A 2/2. Whenever it attacks, they lose a life, draw a card. We do hit the 8th mana for Spark-Tongue Dragon, so it's going to be excellent here. Just get that Pegasus Courser out of here so we don't even have to worry about that doing anything. Still at 17. They can triple block Bone Pit Brute if they really want to kill it, but that would be pretty bad for them. Alright, they do scoop them up there. Just double checking if the Bone Pit Brute's a fine attack, and it certainly is there. So that puts us at 5 and 2. Heading into round 8. I was terrified of that Leonin War Leader. I just immediately got flashbacks to the last game I played against it when we were playing the blue-red deck. But I guess a lot of that was also our opponent curved out really well. They went like 2-drop, 3-drop into the War Leader, which was very brutal. But I guess I'll have to put a check mark there. We have beat a Leonin War Leader now. It's not actually the scariest bomb in the world, because it does have to attack to get its value, but it just gave me some nasty flashbacks. Alright. So round 8 now. No matter what happens, we are in the money. We're getting more gems out of this than we had to spend to play, and we got to play a ton of Magic and a ton of this unique draft format. It's a pretty fun draft format, so I'm happy. So blue-white from our opponent, and a turn 2 departed deckhand. That is a clock right there. A 2/2 that can't be blocked except by other spirits, and for 4 mana they can give that same ability to a different creature. We could Dragonfire that immediately, play as defensively as possible because we know how impactful our deck is late game and even in this hand with Vine Mare coming up and Lavakin Brawler. Yeah, I'm going to just preserve my life total to the maximum degree here and just immediately get rid of that Departed deck hand. Because we're going to have to kill that eventually because we'll never be able to block it, so we might as well get rid of it immediately and stop as much damage as possible. Alright, so turn 3 here. I think I like playing Skyscanner. Destructive Digger or Tyrannodon would both block the Enforcer well. But I really want to play a 4-drop next turn because both of our 4-drops are just quality cards. And Skyscanner makes that significantly more likely, letting us see another card dig deeper for a land. So I'm going to go with Skyscanner here. We might take 2 from Enforcer. Unfortunately, just hit Rock's Oracle here, but if the next card is a land, then Skyscanner still helped dig to that. So we're down to 19. Even Rugged Highlands gaining us the 1 life was pretty helpful here. So they do have Star Crown Stag, a 3/3 whenever it attacks, they tap one of our creatures. So we're going to need a lot of blockers to be able to actually block here. That card is pretty great. We're definitely going to reduce that to ashes as soon as we have the mana, but still stuck on 3 here. Go with the more expensive card, the Destructive Digger. Either one we cast is just going to get tapped anyway, so we might as well make the most of our mana. We're not going to want to chump block with Skyscanner. We're taking 5. I think we can deal. Because they'll attack with both of these. Tap Digger. Skyscanner's not going to block profitably. And it is not worth a chump block just to stop 3 damage. The chump block could stop more later. Griffin Sentinel, a flyer, which means that Celestial Enforcer's ability is active now. Oh, things are really not looking good here. We're going to Tormenting Voice, discard Rock's Oracle, I suppose. By the time we have 5 mana, like, we're going to have more cards than our opponent. We have all of this stuff still to cast. They only have 1 left in hand. So we don't really need more card draw. We need more cards with immediate impact on the board, and more flyers are good as well because they are blue-white flyers with Griffin Sentinel and Celestial Enforcer. So I think Spark Tongue Dragon more important than Oracle for sure. Maybe Tyrannodon's not that important, but if we hit a land here, we get to cast Tyrannodon and still put something on the board and potentially block the Stag. So I think it's at least more important than Oracle. So we'll discard that, I think. The 4-drops are really important because if we hit the 4th mana, we can cast these, but we need 2 more before we can cast the 5-drops. Okay, cool. So we do hit a land. We do get to cast Tyrannodon. Obviously, not attacking with Skyscanner anymore because it'll just get blocked by a 1/3 and die. Pretty scared here, but we definitely have a hand that can stabilize if we hit another mana. We really need to hit another mana still, though, because even hitting the 4th mana so we can cast these Vine Mares and stuff, sure, that's sweet and all, but we need to be able to stop flyers as well. I'm probably overthinking it. I'm probably a little extra scared based on how good previous aggressive decks we were playing against were. Because they only have 2 cards left in hand. The Vine Mares have hexproof, so they can't be tapped by Stag. So even if they immediately kill Digger here, we know we can block Stag next turn. Or if they do that. Yeah, we take 4, but Vine Mare guaranteed blocks Stag next turn. Oh, we only have 1 green. Never mind, this is still a massive issue. I think we take the 4, go down to 10. Alright, I am right to still be terrified, because we can't actually cast these Vine Mares. Oh no. Alright, we can cast Lavakin Brawler or Druid of the Cowl. Druid of the Cowl makes sure we can cast Vine Mare or Reduce to Ashes next turn, so that seems pretty important to me. And neither one of these cards is big enough to block and kill Starcrown Stag, so neither are that exciting. Although Brawler's big enough to block it without dying, which is cool. But I think we just take 4 again and go to 6 here. Which is not lovely. Just the Sentinel, okay. Super happy with that. I guess they know that we have enough creatures now, they can't tap everything, so they could tap that, and then I'd still have 2 creatures to block with, but they couldn't block and kill Stag, so I think they could have got in for 3 more damage still. Maybe they're a little worried about a crackback. Either way, super happy here. Now, if they don't have a counterspell in hand, which they only have one blue, we're just going to kill that stag. That stag is so important here. The Enforcer is not a good time either, but they at least have to dump mana into doing that, and that's just going to like shut off our one flying blocker and get in for 1 damage a turn. Like, that is not that bad for us. The stag is getting in for 3 a turn. That's just more threatening to me, I think. Getting in for 3 a turn while tapping down stuff. So we have 6 mana. We're 2 mana away from casting Spark Tongue Dragon and shooting a thing, which I think we have time to try to do at 8 life here. Keep tapping the Druid, okay. Fair enough. I mean, it does keep us from Vine Mare, and I guess it keeps us from Spark Tongue Dragon if they keep lining it up like that. So we can Lavakin Brawler. I guess we could go for the Digger to sacrifice Sky Scanner. Just get a chump block out of it and then sack it. Costs 3 mana to do that. So we don't have enough mana to do that, and also Furious Rise. If we just cast Spark Tongue Dragon without saving the 3 extra mana, then it just gets tapped by Enforcer every turn. So that's a pretty big reason, I think, to hold it. Furious Rise isn't actually drawing us any cards immediately. I think Lavakin Brawler here. Still taking this 1 a turn, which is getting very threatening, down to 7 life now. Hopefully they start tapping down the Lavakin Brawler instead of our Mana Dork. So it's possible we actually get the dragon going. Or at least a Vine Mare for Furious Rise. I'm about to just reach through the internet and slap my opponent right now. Still tapping the Druid of the Cowl. It is. It's like they can see my hand of double green cards. Oh, Lord. All right, so we could sack the land for Digger. I still don't love the Spark Tongue Dragon because it just keeps getting hit by Enforcer, but if they keep tapping it with Enforcer, then we have double green. We can actually cast a 4/4 Reach. Yeah, no. Let's just cast this dragon at this point. Like, worst case scenario, now they just start tapping that down every turn, in which case, by tapping that down every turn, our green mana's up, and we can cast Gnarled Sage, and then they just can't get in. If we have 2 flying blockers. So to go for the double block here, we're going to get something off the board, get the thing that can attack us, because we're super low on life. We have a mountain more cards than our opponent, we just don't have the life to spare, so I'm just dumping my cards at getting anything off their board at this point. Sleep paralysis. Well, I'm going to be 100% honest here. I would be happy with our record, even if we lose this game. However, this game has been pretty annoying. I'm getting a little annoyed here. Oh my god. Alright, so Druid of the Cowl gets tapped down. Another red source. So we are going to get hard punished. So tapping the Druid is still just going to be working out. Alright, well, Furious Rise, sack a land now. Or sack a Spark Tongue Dragon? No, it's artifact or land, not creature or land. So yeah, Furious Rise and then sacrifice a land to the Digger. I feel like the monks in Monty Python that are just slapping themselves in the face with a wooden board. Frantic Inventory to draw a card. Our opponent's deck is very good, though. It's just our situation with the green mana being worsened dramatically by them just being able to tap down a mana source every turn is super brutal. That is just a massive feel bad. All right. Destructive Digger, dig us out of this one. Find us a forest, please. Are they going to kill it? Destroy a tapped creature or something? No. Well, a Leafkin Druid, another green source that can get tapped every turn. Although, they can only tap one card a turn, so it will get us there. And another green card, Truffle Snout. This one gains us 4 life, though. That's actually huge against this 1/3 flyer. But we still have to play Leafkin Druid here. And Leafkin Druid adds double green, so they start tapping the Druid down instead of the... well, tap the Druid instead of the Druid. The Leafkin Druid instead of the Druid of the Cowl. I am once again... I think gonna dig a land away. Because we have 5 mana on our lands, 3 mana on our creatures with 2 druids out. And we don't need more than 6 mana in this deck. Especially because Sparktongue Dragon's tapped down and on the board. Fairy Miscreant, another flyer, is a bad time for us. If they have duplicates of Miscreant, they will draw a card when they cast another one, which will be very nice. Otherwise, just a little flying threat here. Trades for Sky Scanner, so not that threatening. But they could start tapping Sky Scanner instead of our mana, because they know we have 2 of these mana dorks now. So I could see that happening. Nope, opponent would rather be rude. Alright, we have the natural green source now too. We get to drop down a Gnarled Sage and have 1 mana up afterwards. 4, 5, 6 mana total. We can't double spell anymore because I did sacrifice a land here. You think we drop the Gnarled Sage and they have to start tapping that down. 4 life though against 2 power flyers. If they have a combat trick, we do just die. Maybe it's Truffle Snout. Right, like they tap down Gnarled Sage and then we just... I guess we block there, but then if they have +3/+3, we just die. I mean, if we just die, we just die. Let's get our Gnarled Sage out here. I feel like Truffle Snout's gotta be worse. Sure, it's better against that 1 card, but it's worse against pretty much anything else our opponent has, because we can just cast it next turn and cast like another Vine Mare or something. I should have attacked with Drowsing Pteranodon. I forgot that can attack now that we have a 4-power creature. But I certainly should have attacked with that. Probably even the Digger at this point. Because we're going to need to draw a lot more lands before I start sacrificing lands again. I shouldn't have been attacking with this early game. Because it has got a lot of value for us, but... Alright, well that is not good. Baron bounces the Gnarled Sage, and now Enforcer taps the Sky Scanner to hit us for 2. Or it does not. Alright, well, I'll trade with Miscreant all day long. They're holding on to Enforcer's ability to tap Gnarled Sage when we recast it, I suppose. I would be very surprised if they choose to still tap our mana. Alright, so they would still rather tap our mana than the Sage. I guess we have 5 cards in hand. That is fair. That is very fair. They know all of our mana goes back into Sage, or at least a lot of it. Ooh, Ember Hauler. Doesn't actually help as much as it looks like. Because it can't kill the Enforcer. So we have 14 cards left in the deck. I'm a little worried about milling out to this Furious Rise at this point. Truffle Snout to gain life and drop Ember Hauler and have the mana to use it here. Yeah, I'm kind of convinced we need to just gain the life at this point. Three, 3, and a 3/2. That like trades there, kills there. Now we just start attacking. I guess we only have a 3/2 that can attack right now. But I think we shoot Baron with the Ember Hauler just to get other stuff in. Because like, is it that bad if Digger trades for Baron? Not really. It's probably better to save Ember Hauler in case they play like a 2/2 flyer or something. Let the Digger trade for Baron here. We're not going to use it anymore. We have Furious Rise to draw cards. And I'm a little worried about milling, so... we need to start putting some pressure on our opponent at some point. You don't know how badly I wish Ember Hauler could do 3 damage right now on this Enforcer. In the grand scheme of things, shooting the Stag instead of the Enforcers worked really poorly. Because the Stag would have to find a way to survive attacking at all this stuff at this point to keep tapping things. Secure the scene, exile this, and we get a 1-1. Would I rather have a 1-1 or do 2 damage to my opponent? I would rather just get to keep a 1-1, I think. And watch for the spheres. 2-2 flyer. So they did draw into the 2-2 flyer for the Ember Hauler, but immediately after having us secure the scene anyway to deal with our 2 damage. Oh my god, I forgot how this works until we exile another card with this. So this is still just sitting here until we play another 4-power creature. So we could just play the Leafkin Avenger here, but we would get very killed, right? Because we'd have 4 mana left afterwards, so we couldn't play a Gnarled Sage. So we're going to play Gnarled Sage. They're going to tap down Gnarled Sage. We're just going to die because we take 3 damage a turn. We need to hit Chandra's Outrage. Like, we need to kill a flyer or an Enforcer just immediately. Alright. Alanda's not bad here. Like, we had to sack some mountains just to find our second forest, so we are still low on lands and Luminous Bonds from our opponent at this point. Have given them pretty much a sentry to draw into anything, so it makes sense. Still tapping down the Leafkin Druid. Seven mana here. Can only cast 1 thing, and I can't cast anything that blocks flyers. Well, happy with our record overall, but that's one of the most irritating games of Magic I think I've played in like a month here. I should have definitely shot that Celestial Enforcer. But whoo, am I glad this draft is done now. 5 and 3, 1,600 gems and 4 packs, so pretty good rewards here. Definitely a really well-drafted deck from our opponent, very well played from them, so no shade there, just was not a good time on our side of the table. But I guess that's some divine justice. That's pretty much how our opponent felt when we had double Vine Mare against the mono-black deck, I would assume. So sometimes you gotta let some justice happen. Something has to happen to the hexproof player, and that was some retribution right there. So anyways, that is going to end this draft. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, make sure to stick around, like, comment, and subscribe if you'd like the YouTube algorithm to send you some more of these videos in your notification feed. And as always, thank you all again for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.